Hey, it's Jacqueline, and I bet you're here because you want to learn more about how to drive an automatic car. And since you're asking yourself that question, I wonder if maybe you have experience driving a standard transmission, or some people call it manual. If you have experience driving a manual transmission, then you know that your feet do a lot of work. Your left foot is in charge of the clutch, and your right foot is in charge of the brake and the gas. In an automatic car, your left foot is on vacation. In fact, it just sits to the left on a special ramp that's designed to hold your left foot out of the way because it doesn't have any work to do. Your right foot is still in charge of brake and gas, even more so because it's the slight pressure of the brake and the gas that's going to control your speed. In a manual transmission, you control your speed by either accelerating and shifting to a higher speed or slowing down and shifting to a lower gear. In the automatic car, the engine does the work for you. Let's get out on the road and we're going to see how that works in real life practice. Two things you want to think about when you're driving an automatic transmission. Uphill, you're going to have to put more pressure on the gas to get your car up and over the hill. That's similar to a manual or standard transmission. And then downhill, the car just wants to roll, and you're going to have to apply slight pressure to the brake to adjust your speed and make sure that you don't pick up too much speed because you never want to go over the speed limit. My left foot has stayed over on the left resting ramp, and my right foot has been doing the subtle work of pivoting, applying slight acceleration to get up this slight hill, more and more and more. And I hear a little bit of the engine running a little bit harder, but really, there's not much going on for me except just riding along and controlling my speed. One thing that's really important to remember is that automatic cars still have a low gear. And that's important because in an automatic car, when you're going downhill, as I said, the gravity makes the car want to pick up speed. And it can be hard on your brakes because you'll have to brake all the way down the hill. So to make it easier on the engine, I'm going to put my car in low gear. And that low gear acts sort of like downshifting if I was in a manual transmission. It tightens the gears so that my car doesn't roll as quickly away. And that saves my brakes. So even when you're driving an automatic car, you still will need to downshift to that low gear that might be marked with the letter L or maybe the number 3 or 2 or 1. And that will help you to adjust to a steep decline or different road conditions like sand or snow or rain, where you might want to drive more slowly and have more control of the engine. So even though it's called an automatic car, it still has at least a low gear that you'll use when you're going downhill or on rough road conditions. My light turned green, but the van was still crossing, so I paused for a little extra time there. I just wanted you to notice that because that's an important part of driving, whether you're driving a stick shift or an automatic car. Another challenge that people have shared with me that they have when they transition from a manual transmission to an automatic is that it's really easy to accidentally speed. Without even noticing, your speed can increase. As long as you keep your big toe down on the gas pedal, the speed is going to continue to increase. So it's really important, since you can't hear the roar of the engine to indicate that you need to shift gears to a higher gear, you have to really learn to watch your speedometer. And instead of shifting gears, you just shift the weight of your toe. So you're really going to get in touch with your big toe. That's the biggest influence on your brake and your gas. And if you start to go a little bit over the speed limit, you'll just lift the pressure of your big toe up a little bit, and that way your speed will start to drop 1 or 2 miles, and you won't accidentally go too far over the speed limit.
If you're studying for your permit or learning to drive, I recommend that you check out Zootopia.com. They have an amazing app with tons of DMV practice tests to help prepare you for your permit test. It goes through everything you need to know in detail and has hundreds of illustrations to make it easier to understand and remember the information. With more than 100,000 ratings, Zootopia is one of the most widely used driver's ed resources in the U.S. and a must-have for learners. Check it out and see for yourself.
When I'm crossing these intersections that are uncontrolled, I'm always really careful to creep out to the second limit line, putting my left mirror on top of that second line so that I have the best visibility before I clear the intersection. And when we're thinking about the difference between using a manual transmission and an automatic transmission, it's really interesting to think about the hands. If I was in a manual transmission car, my right hand would be really busy as I'm driving in and out of this neighborhood, in stop sign areas, going over speed bumps. I'd be shifting gears from first to second to third. And since we started driving, the only thing I had to do was put the car in D. In an automatic car, D is good from 0 miles an hour all the way to our speed limit of 65 or 75 on the freeway, depending on where you're driving. So driving in an automatic is simpler than driving a manual transmission. There's less work for the driver to do. You let the engine take control. The only thing you might have to do is downshift if you're in an area where you want to go downhill, or you have sand or snow or things like that. So you want a safer, smoother drive. Uphill, we hear the engine roaring a little bit more. And notice I didn't have to do anything but control the steering wheel there, which of course, if I was driving a manual transmission, I would have had a lot of work to do, slowing, stopping, and then restarting and shifting gears all the way. So I hope you have a little bit better of an idea what it's like to drive an automatic car, understanding how simple it is. And it really feels like a vacation if you're someone that has been used to driving a stick shift. It might feel a little boring at first, but I hope that you feel super comfortable driving your automatic and getting around town without having to do too much work shifting gears.